to the Lake Central School Board meeting on November 20th, where we are so excited to have you here. Would you all please join us and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please have a seat. And some items that I need to clarify for you. First of all, there's a few chairs up front here if any of you would like to have a seat. You notice there's two spots on the agenda where you can address the school board from the public. The first part will be item 6. That would be to address any of the action items under Roman numeral 7. And then the second place where you can address the public is at the very end on Roman numeral 8. The signature sheets for both are back there by the front door as you come in. But you need to be signed up. You need to be a resident of Lake Central School Corporation to address the board. Okay? Thank you. And moving forward, Dr. Bracco.
Yeah, you have a revised agenda before you. You have revisions under Roman numeral 7B, Mr. Gandolfi's personnel recommendation, an addition where Mr. Gandolfi and Mr. Ledger possibly are going to talk a little bit about the calling, arrival, and dismissal procedure change that they worked on with the School Safety Commission. Roman numeral 7C, professional leave requests under Mrs. Schoen, professional leave requests under Mrs. Castaneda, and then F, Director of Facilities. There's an addendum. The original agenda said Lake Central High School Energy Star Award, and now we are adding Protsman to that Energy Star Award. So that'll take place under Mr. Ledger's.
All right. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries. Thank you. Mrs. Lesentine, correspondence?
There's no correspondence. Excellent.
All right. And liaison committee reports. Mr. Marshall?
Yes, we have our Westlake joint meeting with School Town of Munster tomorrow at Munster's administrative center there, and it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At present, I have nothing to report on personnel interview committee.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Baxo?
The only thing I have to report on is Diary Development Committee met last week, and they just went over mostly old business and had to do with the County Man Avenue fence update, where they're still having some problems getting the fencing from their supplier. So it's going to be quite a while before they finish that fence. Basically, that was all that came out of the redevelopment commission, except for they're doing some Christmas decorating and things like that on Calumet Park streets coming up here for Thanksgiving and the holidays, Christmas.
Okay. Anything with Dyer Parks? Nothing?
Nothing there.
Okay. Thank you. And Mrs. Suze?
No, nothing on either of my committees.
Nothing on Dollars for Scholars or St. John Redevelopment. And Mrs. Lesentine?
Attended chair vote redevelopment and nothing to report at this time.
Nothing to report, okay. And legislative committee report. Wanted to invite everyone to the Merrill Freshman Center Lecture Hall, Interdoor J, next Monday. That is November 27th at 6:30. Our state superintendent, Glenda McCormick, Jennifer McCormick will be there to talk to us. And I think it's really important for us to show and be supportive of what she's trying to do. She's an educator, a former superintendent. She seems to have a good handle on what's going on in education, and has some real concerns herself with some of the issues that are coming out of the legislature. So again, that's next Monday at 6:30, Door J. That is sponsored by the Indiana Coalition for Public Education. Lake Central Education Foundation met on Monday evening, and we are working to support the Science Olympiad team in their first invitational, which will be in January. course, we're always looking for good committee members. If you would like to volunteer and show your support, we would love to have you join us. The Education Foundation Committee is all about raising funds so that teachers have an opportunity to submit grants so they can enhance and enrich what's happening in their classroom to support student learning. And the Wellness Committee, we met the other day, and they have a really great program put together for all of us in January. And I will bring it to you as board members, and maybe we can have our own personal team, because you will enjoy it, I do believe. Thank you. And moving ahead for official school board business topics, Dr. Fracco.
Thank you, Dr. Malco. Seek board approval for the minutes from the November 6th executive sessions and the board meeting on November 6th, and then board approval of claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures that you received last week.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, and motion carries. Thank you. Are there any public comments regarding action items listed in Roman numeral 7?
I think Jeannie's bringing something here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and Lawrence Rolak?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, would you like to come forward?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. And would you introduce yourself and your address?
Lawrence Rolak. I'm a current contracted driver for Lake Central. I was contracted in September. Since that time, we've had many deals, many issues we had to deal with. I've never been to a board meeting, so excuse me. I don't know the process. I watched you on YouTube. You look like very nice people.
Yeah.
There's an action going on tonight to dismiss me pending termination for an incident which happened on the school bus. I happen to have text from the head trainer of Lake Central, Judy Dostal, who trained me. And the text will give my background. It'll give how much I needed there, all things to do with that issue. I also took the time to take the word of approximately 75 bus drivers and the issues they've had. I don't know how much the board knows about the transportation department and how they conduct business. I don't know how far into it I can get. Therefore, I typed a 4-page incident report on everything we've documented, knowing this day was coming, one for each board member. The reason why I'm here is 2 things. The action against me is number 1. Pending tonight's decision with the board, I'll either be employed going forward or I will not be. In either case, the board does what the board does. The board knows best. I trust everybody's judgment here. I just feel that you do need to see, you do need to read what's going on, because at a courtesy to the board and to Lake Central and all its students, you're going to have what's going to look like the blue flu. And it's going to happen on the worst day of the year. And I'm going to tell you this through experience. I have other bus drivers with me today. Some bus drivers are current, some bus drivers are in the past. There's many things which I don't feel you would like me to address right now. If you would accept the paper I typed out for you, that would be wonderful. And perhaps we can address this at a later date. I'm just at a courtesy, so letting everybody know things aren't happening well. And it all is due to the transportation director, Christian Flores. Now, I know he has friends here. He doesn't have any there. And I think the board needs to know why, and I think the board needs to really step back, take a look. This is just a snapshot in time. The larger snapshot in time is coming. But I just want to make that known to the board, and I appreciate everybody's time this evening. I'll help you have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, you too. And will you get your documentation to us?
Give the documentation to Mr. Bracco.
Sure, and he'll get that
Thank
passed
you.
down to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I don't think I'll be needed anymore this evening, unless you have any more questions for me.
No,
or-
we'll go ahead and review this, and you're more than welcome to leave.
Well, welcome to stay and
And
listen.
you're more than welcome to stay.
I'll
too,
turn my
so.
hearing aids on high.
All right. very
Thank you
good,
so much.
Uh-huh. All right, and moving ahead then, official school board business topics, regular agenda, Dr. Braco.
Okay, my first item is to welcome a lot of our guests to the meeting this evening, a lot of friendly, familiar faces. I'm here to recognize one of our own who, despite retiring, continues to work for the children of Lake Central. And it's not just him, it's a lot of other people that support the cause. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Schoen at this time to introduce our special guests.
Well, as you know, most days the focus in the media is on the negative things that happen in the world, but the reality is that there's way more good things that happen every day. And so there are people every day just being everyday people doing great things, giving of their time and their talents to make the world a better place or to help others out. And tonight we'd like to recognize one of our community members that's doing just that. It's Mr. Dave Andrews with the One Room Schoolhouse. If you would join me. If I could, I'd like to give a brief history of the One Room Schoolhouse that you shared with me, so I've learned a history lesson from you already. The schoolhouse was built in 1853, and it originally sat on the corner of 77 and Old St. John Road, and correct me if I get any of this wrong. Okay? It was used as a school until 1907, when it was sold and moved to a farm in Dyer and used as a storage shed. And it was discovered or rediscovered in 1993 and moved to the St. John Township Trustee's office, where it is now. And at that time it was used as a meeting place for the Cherville Historical Society, and Mr. Andrews was a member of that society. From what he tells me, the society wanted to give the community access to it or use it in some way for the community. Now he had seen, and this he didn't share with me, but he had seen the One Room Schoolhouse at Conner Prairie, and that inspired you to bring a program like that to our community. So he worked with the Historical Society, and in 2003, the One Room Schoolhouse was opened to students, and so our 4th grade students get to go every year and experience a typical school day as it was in 1800. And Mr. Andrews and many volunteers plan this and keep this going. And I do have to tell you that the history of the schoolhouse he gave up to me readily, but I had to do a little research on what your role was in bringing it to our community, because he was really reluctant to even show up here tonight. I had to do a little coercing because he kept telling me that it was a group effort, a collaborative effort from the Historical Society and the volunteers that have been there and that are still there. As a token of our appreciation, Lake Central would like to present this plaque to you for your commitment to our students and bringing the One Room Schoolhouse experience to us and your ongoing support of the One Room Schoolhouse.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of the stipulations that got him here tonight was that I would let him thank some of the other people. So the floor is yours.
Well, I'm only one individual, and sure, I'm there all the time, but the gals that come, they give their all, and many of them are retired teachers, others are people that worked in the Lake Central School Corporation and from other places, and they've all come to help kids. And I will tell you the truth, we had more fun than the kids, but anyway, there's so many of them back there, and would you please stand, all of you? school of everyone that has volunteered. Unfortunately, several have passed away, and many of them have moved away. But regardless, you can see that's just the most wonderful group of people to work with. And I've been blessed all these years. You know, even when I was in Lake Central, my staffs at Holman and at Watson and at Piper, they've been fantastic people. They all have. And that's where a lot of these people came from. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank
you. Mr. Andrews, we so thank you for everything. I remember the years when this all started. And I was at Bivage, and do you remember just all the dynamics of getting everything organized, and then the kids get so dressed up for it, because they don't just go as regular fourth graders, do they? Well, thank you so much for coming tonight and for all that you've given to the community, many, many years of it. We thank you, and all of you with him tonight, we thank you also. And should I just resend it?
Not after, don't want to do
Oh, well, we've got 2 more awards to give, and then if you want to go. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we do have a couple of awards for high school athletics. I'd introduce Chris Enyart at this time to take that.
The first team from the fall is our boys cross country team. I'm gonna have Coach Rhodey, who's with us tonight, come up and talk about the individuals.
We had 2 individuals this year who qualified for the state finals. One is senior Billy Dusinski, who qualified for his 2nd state finals as an individual. He was also 2-time all-conference. He was a sectional champ this year. He was all-regional and all-semi-state. The second is Joey Copeland. Joey was a DAC champion in cross-country. He was last year's sectional champion in cross-country, all-regional, all-semi-state. And in a very odd thing that happened, Joey got to run all 4 years at the state finals as an individual and as a team member.
Wow. Very good, very good.
I'll apologize for the kids. I've seen most of the kids were honored tonight at the boys basketball game that's going on right now.
Can you imagine they would pick that over this?
We tried to get them down here, they weren't having it. They just have more fun there. But our next program is our girls golf team, and I'm going to have Coach Stracciano come up to talk about that.
Talk real quick about our team. We were able to win the conference, and we also won our 7th sectional in a row, so we had a good year. Did not get to the state finals as a team. But there's one individual I do want to talk about, and she's at the game enjoying herself for the first time in a long time. But she's heard my speech before anyway, so I think it's important that you guys hear some of the accolades of Alexis Mistowski. She was an all-state member both in the ICGSA and IHSGCA for 4 times. So she's won it from freshman to her senior year. She was a state champion as a sophomore, took 3rd place last year, and again took 2nd place this year as a senior, so top 3 in the state finals 3 years in a row. She set course records at Sandy Pines with the 63, 9 under par. Ackerman Hills, 7 under par. The set tournament records at Lake Central Invite, Culver Invite, Crown Point Invite, along with another course record at Yuki at -765. She finished this season 30 under par. It was 37 under par at one point, and that includes the postseason as well. She was nominated again for the Indy Star Golf of the Year. She won that award as a sophomore. With this array of accolades, she had a good chance of winning it again, but we won't find out until next year. And she literally broke every single record, both as a team member and as an individual as a sophomore, and went on to beat every single one of her own records again this year. Other than that, she's a future member of, I believe, our Hall of Fame, but also probably the Indiana Golf Hall of Fame as well. So just want to give you some of her stats as she wraps up really an unbelievable career.
Thank you. And Coach Rhodey and Coach Frasciano, will you extend our congratulations to the students and really to all the members of your team, because I don't know how in the world they do some of these things, but thank them for their dedication and efforts. It's appreciated. All right, now, if you want to leave and go home and do other things, but thank you for joining us, we appreciate it.
I'm afraid to try and figure out a number.
I figured you was.
Okay, I'm going to carry on with my next item, and that is to share with the board and our audience some information I sent down to one of our legislators in central Indiana. I was in Lafayette for a non-school related matter, and I ran into Representative Sheila Clinker, and she was talking to me about how she was going to pitch some increment language, because it's her belief as a former teacher that one of the things that's causing, or at least contributing to the teacher shortages, young people going into an industry when they really can't envision ever getting to a decent salary. And so I shared some of my thoughts with her, because I agreed with her, and she said, boy, it would really help me if you would put some of those ideas on paper and send them to me. So what you have before you, board members, is the information I sent to her legislative email. And I just wanted you to have it, because I do think when this General Assembly put in the rule that said you can't give increment anymore, that's the automatic step raises to teachers, it was because the increment alone was causing some districts to deficit finance. And so they had multi-year contracts. You made promises to your staff that was causing financial hardship for your organization. And so if you look at my list, one of the things I say is that districts must demonstrate that no deficit financing will occur due to granting the increment. So you'd have to do an annual analysis to show this is our financial state. But what it would do for those younger teachers is make them realize that I'm not making 70-some thousand, I'm making 40,000, but I'm sort of first in line, because it's, you know, I need the raise more than some other people. Now, there are some veteran teachers who might say, we all need the raise, and I agree with that. But if you're trying to think about ways to approach the teacher shortage, we need to do many things. But this is one that I think we can do. And in my scenario, I said that the General Assembly could use the state average, which is currently between 50 and 51,000, that you could give the increment to anybody who's making less than the state average. And then, and that would be very similar to how we did it in the past, that people seem to be okay with. And then you look at the remaining resources and divide that up for raises for people who aren't in the increment scale, or administrators or hourly workers as well. So I just wanted the board to have the information that I sent to them, and I'm not looking for you to ask any questions tonight. You can if you want, but as we move down the road in towards the short session, it'll be interesting to see. I told her that I had spoken to people, she's a Democrat, I'd spoken to some people on the other side of the aisle who agreed with me when I made some of these statements to them, although they have not, you know, championed any language. But I will also be sharing this with Mr. Slager, because he told me at a recent meeting that he thought this idea could have merit too. So I'll let him know, of course, that this was initiated by Sheila Clinker, but perhaps, you know, Hal, through his seat in the Ways and Means Committee, can have some influence over some of his caucus to say this would be a way possibly to entice more young people who get that license to actually try being a teacher before they go do something else. But I just wanted the board to have that information.
Thank you.
Questions? I think it's a great idea, and to share it with our reps is an even better idea, so that we can have some solid support. Okay, and Mr. Gandolfi.
moving on. My first item is to seek your approval of the personnel recommendations that were in the revised packet this evening.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And are there any questions or any items that you would like to discuss? Knowing that we had some information given to us, are we?
I was gonna ask, I don't know, do we have, take that line item out, do we just continue to vote on that?
We can take it out if it's.
I don't know that
I
it
would,
works.
well, I would respectfully request that you look at the document. I haven't seen the document.
That's what I'm
have-
saying, just being handed it.
I have provided you the document based on the recommendation. If you'll look at page 3 of that document, it is specific to the individual that was mentioned at the podium this evening. If you could just take a few minutes and maybe review that document and then make a decision.
Madam President,
Yes,
I have a comment.
yes, sir.
I've gone through the printed material that's been presented to us, and we heard from Mr. Rolak in terms of his comment to us. And respectfully, I appreciate everybody has their own comments and feelings, but I feel personally that to be presented with a situation where it's not a threat, but providing additional information about quote-unquote blue flu, I didn't take well to that. The material presented to me, if I could relate to a similar circumstance, my oldest daughter is the HR director of a major corporation in the Midwest. And she asked my advice one time. She was having trouble with terminations. And I explained to her, after sufficient investigation and follow-through, where all information was brought forward, you have to do what you have to do. In light of what I've read in this information, I think there's sufficient information that has been presented, and we have it in front of us. I think we should move forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marshall. Any other comments, questions?
I'm going to second what Howard said, that I think with the information that we were provided prior to, that's what we're looking at. If something comes after that and we have to look at something differently, I don't have a problem looking at it that time, but right now I think with the information that we have, I'm okay with moving forward. What about you guys?
I reviewed it as well. I'm ready to move forward.
Okay, so calling for a vote? Okay. All right, so what we have in front of us is a personnel recommendation from Mr. Gandolfi. And we have a, no, we have a motion and a second, so we're ready to call for the vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign? And motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
My second item is to call Chris Rossiano back up, Clark Middle School Athletic Director, who's going to give us his fall sports report. Welcome back, Chris.
Mr. Rossiano?
Thank you. Significantly less enjoyable 37 under par, but here we go. So you guys all have a handout. I'm just going to go through real quickly.
Yes, and thank you for joining us. I know this is something new, but.
Yeah, so I'll do my best.
No, and that's okay. We just appreciate the information you'll share with us. And would you do me a big favor? And
Yes.
just speak up because I have limited hearing.
You got it.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you.
So this is just our a report similar to what Mr. Andrew's going to give you later from Clark Middle School. And on the front page there, it has the total number of athletes we had this previous fall season, which is 198 athletes. About 42% of them had made the A honor roll, so it's a pretty good number there. I was pretty happy when I crunched the numbers and got that outcome there. And at the high school we have a good rate as well, but it's good to know that at the middle school those numbers are high as well. We look at the finals from our fall season. You see the cross country team, 7th and 8th grade volleyball, both boys and girls cross country. You see the records there. highlighted by the 8th grade volleyball team, who was undefeated and was able to win the conference this year. Look at the postseason and final results. Now, a little bit different at the middle school. The final standings come in the regular season. So you can see the regular season stats up there. We had one team take first place. In the postseason, you can see we had a 7th grade first and an 8th grade team that took second place there. Other teams finishing in the top 5 as well, with the 4th place boys and girls cross country. On the next page is just some gate receipts and some expenses. As you can see, between the gate receipts, concessions, and some a little bit of money that was made on physical night, that came out to about $8,500. And we look at our expenses, which included gate workers, officials, equipment purchases, team gear. This year, the football team obviously had to share a gate with Grimmer. And concessions payment, we had gone into the red a little bit there at $94.49. Reason of that is also because of a big purchase that we'll touch on here in a second. So it's not a typical fall sports season. You see on that last page there, one of the large purchases that we made was that since Grimmer and Clark both share the track, both athletic departments, along with boys and girls track teams from Grimmer and Clark, all combined some money to purchase a track timing system. Same system we use at the high school. A number of high schools use the Eagle Eye system. That cost about $7,500. So clear, that's a big expense, which is one of the reasons why this fall we were a little bit under budget. But other than that big expense, which I think is something that's going to work out really well in the long run, it'll speed up our meets quite a bit. And not only that, but we have a nice facility there. I think it puts shines a little light on that facility as well. It makes us look a little bit better to the public as well, aside from moving those meets along faster. So that was one of the big purchases that we made. There were no other major purchases other than your typical wear and tear items, basketball nets, some basketballs, things like that. And I'm not going to go over the sheet, but on the back page, I included just our fall budget, and that's kind of a line item of physical nights, gates from particular games. If you guys are interested to see what types of games bring in, what types of gates, what the official costs are, workers' payments, purchases, things like that. So that's all right there for you if you want to look at that. And obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me today or shoot me an email, and I can kind of go into more depth if you need. So I think that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Wait. I hate to tell you this, I have no idea, what is a physical night?
At Grimmer, we do, and I think the high school does it as well, what we do is we bring in some physicians into their cafeteria, and what we do is instead of having, kids have to go to their doctors, they come in and they're able to get a physical right there, take care of their white card process, and then we get to keep, the physicians donate that money back to the school. So
Oh, how nice.
small fundraiser, but also gets a lot of those kids physicals, so we're not, chasing down the week of the first matches and stuff.
Yeah, okay, now I understand. So then, does Clark share all facilities with Grimmer?
No, just a track and football facilities.
Track and football.
And track and football.
Okay. And do you have an athletic booster at Clark?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Do you have a booster organization?
We do not have a booster organization at Clark.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'm just still learning, so I appreciate
Me too.
your information on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Chris, thank you. My next item is to bring up Bill Gray, Taylor Middle School athletic director, who will make his fall sports report and talk a little bit about his program.
Pardon me, I'm going to have to work both here. I went paperless, so I apologize for not having hard copies. I can get you hard copies at any point. So I don't know if you can see the screen in the back.
It's coming.
So, Taylor Middle School, I'm Bill Gray, the athletic director. We had a very successful fall, actually. And real quick side note, that athletic physical concept, I have to give a shout out to Great Lakes Orthopedics. They were the medical and Express Ortho in conjunction with those two groups. They were the ones who donated all their time and efforts in the physical night. So it ends up being a athletic fundraiser for all 3 middle schools, and then the high school does one on their own, where all those doctors and their nurses come in and then offer physicals. We charge everybody $25 per physical, and then they return all that money back to us as an athletic physical fundraiser. So I have to give a shout out to Great Lakes Orthopedics and Express Ortho Care. Okay. All right, so
It's not working there, Bill. One tech guy on the way.
I cannot tap dance, so that's not going to happen. There we go. All right, so our fall athlete participants, the tryouts by sport, girls cross country started with 60, boys cross country started with 46. So they don't actually try out, but that's what they started out with. Football also started with 46, again, no tryout. And then volleyball had tryouts for 7th and 8th grade, started with 26. The end result is girls cross country ended up with 56 total on the actual team. By the end, boys cross country had 44, football 43, and volleyball 21. So a total number of girls 77, boys 87. We had a total of 164 athletes for the fall. I am very fortunate to work with some great coaches that you're going to meet here very soon. We run awesome programs in the fall where we do not have a numbers issue. So that's where all those numbers come from. The Lake Middle School Athletic Conference, there's a season that's considered a conference play, and then there's a conference tournament at the end. So what you see there, girls cross country ended up winning both. They went undefeated, and I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. So they ended up winning the conference play during the season and the tournament. 7th grade volleyball did the same. Boys cross country won the season and finished second in the tournament. Here's a breakdown. Football, I have 4 coaches. They were 4-2 overall, 3-2 in the conference. They finished third. Cross country, we had so many athletes. I was able to talk somebody into Mr. Gandolfi, talking someone into an emergency hire for an assistant cross country coach. So they went 7-0 during the season, 6-0 in the conference, finished first in the conference season, second in the tournament. They were also second at Rensselaer, 8th at Culver, and they were first in the JV division at the Indiana Middle School State Invitation. Very impressive. For girls' season, cross-country girls had even a better season if that's possible. They went 8-0, 6-0, and first in the conference tourney. They also finished first in the JV division in the Indiana Middle School State Invite. Our volleyball teams, our 8th grade, the record shows a little bit different than what their actual team, their team, thanks to Coach Michelle Thompson there, who's the 8th grade coach, they run an offensive system similar to the high school. So when they are playing other teams where they're just bumping the ball over the net back and forth, if you know anything about volleyball, they're actually really trying to run the high school offense, which better prepares the girls for the following season at the high school. So we appreciate Michelle's effort in that because the overall record doesn't look that good on paper, but if you understand how the volleyball process works, next to Clark, who's also a feeder system of ours, they had an excellent season. 7th grade, they were on fire this year. They went 22-1 overall, 5-1 in the conference. They actually lost to Grimmer during the season on a fluke. No offense, Grimmer. And they had got first in the tournament on that weekend. They also got first at the Lake Central Middle School Invite, and they finished first at the Diggs Invitational. And then this is our finance. Gate receipts, we had a little over 5,400. Football brought in 2, volleyball a little under 2, and the LC Volleyball Invite brought in about 15. And then our fees that we collected, broken down there, we collected about $3,300, and then there's the breakdown there. And then there we made $50 on the team physical night. Yeah, I can't get people to show up for that for some reason. I don't know what they. And then concessions, we ended up netting $632 just for the fall. And then our expenses, paid out game workers, $4,100. Officials were a little over $1,200. And then the volleyball invite for a total cost of $600 there. And then the expenses broken down, we had the cross country. We host the cross country invite. So every school in the conference hosts a different sports conference tournament. And so we actually host the cross country invite. The only problem with that is there is no gate at that invite. So we always end up a little bit in the red there. So we're working on trying to find some ways to combat that. Actually, for what we do and how we put it on, with the coaches' help, that number doesn't look as bad as you would think. Our sports teams paid out $21, and then for miscellaneous costs, and then we did assist cheer with their uniforms. And then recent purchases actually might have been 2 years now, we ended up buying a blocking sled for the football team. Did purchase some new volleyballs. Hopefully in the very near future, before next year, I need to purchase a football scoreboard, because according to the scoreboard guy, he's surprised it's still on the thing. No, I'm kidding. It's surprised. We did get the last game in, but that was sheer luck, actually. So, and then we've been looking at maybe running or purchasing some cross-country running vests, which for the safety of the runners who are running all over, we feel that that's probably a very important purchase in the very near future. And then I do need to purchase an additional volleyball net system. And that's all I have. Any questions on anything? Yes, Mr. Marshall.
Bill, I'm going to diverge from your report, but you touched on an area or item I'm interested in, paying officials.
Yes.
Officials at your level. We've read recent media reports how it's becoming tougher and tougher to get officials for games. Are we seeing any influx of new people coming out, or are you having a problem?
No. In most sports, we are not, because we actually have some people we know that are actually becoming assigners, and so we'll invoice to pay them to assign all our officials. And volleyball officials make $65 a match working by themselves, $45 when they're with someone else, and they just went through a series. Lake County volleyball officials just went through a series in the fall to get a bunch of new officials. So a lot of times what they'll do is the assigners will send over a new official and a veteran official to work a middle school match so they can get more experience that way. Basketball is the same way. We're in season now. All the other sports make $55. We did, through them and through the ADs through the conference, we decided that we would increase their pay from last year, 2 years ago, by $5. So we're hoping that that would help at some point or another. So the biggest problem I think I've had is wrestling. And again, I was fortunate enough to secure an assigner. So he actually assigns my wrestling officials for me. In the event he can't get anybody, then he actually shows up and does the wrestling official. But yeah, that's a good question, because there was a lull. Track officials were hurting as of last year. The problem is they're running high school and middle school meets. They were on the same nights. Then we tried to alternate. So I think by modifying the schedule, we hope that will solve the problem.
Thank you, Bill.
Any other questions?
When do you guys do your physical night? Beginning of the year or end of the year?
For the last 3 or 4 years, we've tried it in the spring. We've tried it in the fall. I think we had it in the spring of last year. I think this coming year, we're going to try to do it right before school starts, maybe hoping that we get more information out. More people will be, as school starts, we may do it the Thursday before school starts. I've tried it in different places. I don't know. I'm at a loss at that process.
I was just curious if we did them all at similar times, at different times. Do we do them at 4 different times so that the district, kids can go to any one of the 4?
Yeah, the high school brought in a bunch of students or numbers. So the medical staff actually asked us to do at least opposite night of the high school. Okay. And then this year we got more overall for the middle schools. We did a lot more like messaging out and stuff like that, so that seemed to help. I think the time of the year, the physical process is really difficult for people to understand, because after April 1st, it's a new physical and all this other stuff. So I think by us talking and moving it to maybe the week right before school, and that way athletic physicals and school starting, or even the week of. The problem is if any team starts before school starts, then they don't actually have a school physical by us.
See, now it's going the opposite way. I'm wondering how many people get their physicals at the end of each school, so end of each school year, to make sure that they're ready to go through the summer, through conditioning. Through
right, and the unfortunate thing is if they get it before April 1st, then they have to go and get another one.
Right.
So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, in June, yeah. The only issue we have is cheerleading and dance usually has their tryouts before the end of the school year, so it's a fine line in the balance that we try to make sure we have those tryouts after April 1st, so if they do get a physical, it will help them for the following school year. All right? Yeah, go ahead.
Questions? So Bill, following up on Mr. Marshall's question, so that's a conference fee that the officials are paid? Everybody in the conference?
Yes, everybody in the conference agreed to pay the officials the same price, the conference that we're in.
And who's in your conference?
It's the old what was it called? Before the Doolin Conference. So Lowell, Griffith they're out, Pierce, Highland, Munster, and then the 3 middle schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Lake Suburban, thank you, I couldn't think of that name.
Just another personal comment.
Yeah.
I like what I'm seeing up there. In the past, there was so much competitiveness amongst our middle schools, and now you're inclusive, saying that Kaler's part of LC.
Yeah, and thanks to Chris and Lake Central, we are actually trying to do more hosting, like when Kaler plays Grimmer or Clark and Grimmer all play each other. We'll try to have at least one of the nights at Lake Central based on open facilities where football will play on the football field here. Or if we know we can't get a scheduled game, a lot of times we've done beginning of season inter scrimmages. So Grimmer, Clark, Kaler all show up and just have preseason scrimmages. It helps the teams prepare, and yet it still allows them to be at the facilities here at Lake Central.
Very good. Well,
So
thank you
Bill,
very
would you
much.
like to introduce some of those phenomenal coaches?
Absolutely. Actually, I want to introduce Tim Doyle, the assistant principal at Kaler, who's going to announce the coach. I didn't want to steal his thunder. So.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Bill did all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And so much for that non-competitiveness. Howard took a shot at Grimmer there, but we're not going to tell the Grimmer guys because they're not here. And Mrs. Malco, he also didn't mention Kaler defending wellness champs as well. What a role at Kaler. 3 out of 5 teams were conference champions. We won the wellness thing.
You have it going, don't you? I know.
Up first, I'm just here to introduce the coaches, and I'm glad they could all be here. Like Mr. Gray said, 3 of the 5 teams were conference champions. A 4th team was 1 win away from a co-conference championship, so it was a fun fall for athletics, certainly at Keeler. I'm going to start with girls cross country. We'll start with the assistant coach, Mrs. Denise Kelly. And the head coach. And this team, Mr. Gray mentioned, gave some stats. This is Chris Gaines, who's our longtime head coach. This team was not only undefeated, but they were throwing shutouts left and right. It was one of the more dominant teams that I've seen in my time at the middle school. So great job, cross country. The boys cross country team, not as many shutouts, but also conference champs, coached by assistant coach, Mrs. Sheila Emick. And our longtime head boys coach, Mr. Mark Langlois. It is fun to see both of the cross-country coaching staffs. I know Mr. Gray had the numbers up there, and it's amazing. I think the teams just keep getting bigger and bigger. Not only are they successful, but the kids have a blast, and the numbers show it, because kids just keep coming out, and like, they're coming out and running like 5 miles a day. I don't get that part of it, but they do it. They make it fun for the kids, and that's why they get so many kids out. So great job.
That's awesome.
Also, our volleyball coaches, our 7th grade team, as Mr. Gray mentioned, was also conference champs, and that team was coached by Mrs. Michelle Thompson. Oh, I'm sorry, I started with Michelle. Well, come on up, both of you. And Mrs. Jamie Rogers was the head coach for 7th.
You can stay up here. So you're on the
Thank you. And that's all we have. Thank you, coaches. Great fall season.
Well, again, coaches, if you would extend our congratulations to the members of your team, and thanks for your dedication. For all you do, it's pretty awesome. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
My next item is to bring Chris Engert up, who will give us the Lake Central High School fall sports report. Welcome, Chris.
At your stations, you have my handout for this evening, our fall student athlete participants. We had 343 total students, athletes this year. That's up 33 from last year. We had 107 females and 236 males. Of course, with 140 being on the football team, that boosts that number from the males to the female side. 125 of the 343 were all A honor roll. And while cheer does a lot of performance and practices in the fall, we don't count them in our fall report. We put them on the winter. So just a note there. Dunlin Athletic Conference standings. For the girls' side, our cross-country team finished 5th. Our golf team was tied for 1st. Soccer finished 3rd, and volleyball finished 5th for at the end of the whole school standings for the fall, after fall season. Lake Central was in 4th place after that. On the boys' side, cross-country finished 4th. Football was tied for 7th. Soccer was tied for 1st, and tennis finished 4th. And again, we're fourth place on the boys' sides in the fall standings of the DAC. On the next page, our postseason results. Girls cross country, they won sectional. Or no, they finished 2nd at sectional. That's wrong. And they advanced, but they did advance to semi-state as a team, where they finished 7th and just a few points off of qualifying for state as a team. Girls golf, the team won the sectional, and as you heard earlier, senior Alexis Mostowski finished her Lake Central career 2nd at the state tournament. Girls soccer lost in the sectional semifinals, and girls volleyball lost also in the sectional semifinals to the eventual state runner-up. Boys cross country, they did win sectionals and advanced 2 members to the state meet. The team did qualify for semi-state. Our football team lost in sectionals. Boys soccer won a IHSA leading 16th consecutive sectional championship in sectionals, and then lost in the first round of regionals. And our boys tennis team ended a big streak of Crown Points and won the sectional championship this year, and then lost in the regional finals to another powerhouse team in the area at Munster. So they've all had great seasons. Our income this year was a total of $260,971. Our gate receipts was at $80,448. Obviously, football was a big income with $55,754. And soccer was almost doubled this year from last year as far as gates. Some of that goes in the opponents and who you're playing, but also the competitiveness of our program. And volleyball was at $8,658. Obviously, cross country, we don't charge for cross country or tennis matches, so that's why they're not on that report. And then another fall team fundraisers and fees was $111,532. Our corporate sponsorship advertisements is at $49,150. And our concessions is $8,134.50. Those are some of the big ones. On the next page is our expenses. Game workers, obviously with big games comes big bills to pay. So the game workers, for ticket takers to security, to the supervision was $14,360 for the fall. Officials, it's done a little differently. Instead of having a solid number, we went to arbiter pay. So we pay our officials online. So the $20,000 is what we put into our accounts because we didn't really have a solid number of how much it would go through. And the fall was right around $13,000 is what it costs for just officials alone. But we do it all through arbiter pay and online. So while big money out to build that account because we send a check and they have an account we put it in. The time and energy that Kathy Kaplinsky in my office and then that goes to the main office is not, because before official would cancel at the last minute, we've already had the check in hand, we have to void the check, we have to cut a new check, we have to mail it out, and there's none of that. It's done on the computer, we log on to our phone or whatever device we have with us and pay it right then and there. If officials don't have an arbiter pay account, it's been around for a while, so they just know. We say, tell them that we use arbiter pay, and that we'll send them a check in the next week. So there are a few officials that don't use it or don't have an account, but that's few and far between. And then equipment and team gear and fees was $106,988 that went out. Training room and weight room was $10,920. Corporation transportation was $11,310. Miscellaneous, that goes to flowers, banquets, certificates, rewards, plaques, dues, fees, hotels and programs. That was for the fall was $8,747.88. And then hospitality and banquet at our football games, and then our fall banquet was $9,748.20. But you know, the big cost is the fall sports banquet where we feed all the teams, families, and everybody. That's $7,850 for that night. So total expenses this year was $189,888.69, which was a nice reprieve from the last couple falls where we put up the video boards and so we're trying to rebuild what we spent out in upgrades across the facilities. So, and then recent purchases, along with the school corporation, we chipped in $20,000 to build the gymnastics room that's upstairs. We also purchased the sound system to go with it. That was $5,500. I know the school corporation, we got the padding, and we're working on the bleachers to go up there is next. But we don't have any. They started practices a couple weeks ago, but they don't have any events until after the first of the year, and we don't host any until later in January. So we have time. And then we are going to our soccer sound system went on the fritz at the end of the year. So we're going to upgrade all of that that sound system. It's the oldest one left, and that's going to be a cost of $6,618. And then on the last page is just we have a signing day event. We do one in the fall, and this year we're going to do another one in the spring signing period. So we're just going to go through who signed national letters of intent on November 8th at our event. Girls basketball, Lauren Ladowski signed with the University of Illinois Springfield. Rachel Robards signed with the Indiana University South Bend. And Lauren Smolin signed with the Indiana University Northwest. In baseball, signing with Purdue University Northwest, we had Justin Graves, Ray Hilbrick, and Connor Hoffman. Signing with Purdue University West Lafayette, we had Connor Tomasic, and we had Hunter Zahorsky signed with the South Suburban College. In softball, Jessica Kiefer signed with Ball State University. Alexis Pinarski signed with Columbia University. Riley Platusik signed with Purdue University Northwest. Riley Platusik signed with Purdue University West Lafayette. And then Purdue University Northwest was Selena Mitchko and Amanda Noblet. And then Madison Tucker signed with the University of St. Francis out of Illinois. In girls soccer, we recognize this individual, even though soccer and football cannot sign until February. But she's going to be an early grad. She's going to graduate in December and enroll early. But Adriana Namaski is going to sign with the University of Iowa, and she's going to enroll there at the first of the year. And then girls golf, Alexis Mostowski has signed with the Indiana University Bloomington.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Henry?
What do we do with there was approximately $70,000 difference that we, I guess, made? Where does that money go? What happens?
That goes back into facility improvements, into when we put up the video boards, we took a big chunk out of our savings that we have to put up, so we're putting some of that back into there to start slowly building that up. But with the winter and the spring coming up, we will also do some more field improvements and facility improvements through other areas. So it all goes back to our kids, as well as recoup and rebuild back our threshold in the savings account. That way, if a big item goes out, that we have the money on hand, because big facilities, big teams, and it's a big expense if something big goes wrong. So we're always trying to make sure we have that little nest egg just to have, so when it goes out, that we can replace it with them.
So it doesn't go team by team, it's just an overall, everybody.
Right. The team by team part, that's separate. Their team fundraiser, their team fees stays with them. All the others, the corporate sponsorship, and the concessions and all those, that's part of the athletic department budget that we use back. But all of that ends up going back into our teams and programs.
Any other questions? Chris, I had one, and this is probably a silly question again, but the expenses for the training room and the weight room for $11,000, what would that entail?
Well, each year, or each athlete has a $60 fee. So to start off with, $15 goes to our weight room, $15 goes to our training room, and 30 goes to transportation of that 60. So that's that portion of the fees that are included.
Oh, okay. So that's.
They use that for their that becomes their operating budget, so they use that to purchase all their supplies. The weight room, we just bought some new power racks and replace some dumbbells and free weights and everything else. So that becomes part of their operating budget for the year.
See, based on my experience, those things never get old and been out of shape, because that's the kind of way I lift weights. So it's good to know others are out there doing it the right way, so, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you asked about the physical night. Why we do ours in the spring, and we do it in April, because after April 1, we're a little different. We're governed by a different set of rules, in that we try to mirror the middle schools to the high school model, so it's a little easier transition. But we're governed by the IHSAA, and we have to be in compliance, so we have to make sure those physicals are done in a timely manner. And we require for our students to do the off-season workouts, that they have the physical turned in, and which the white card process. I mean, that's why we make sure ours is in April. So
And you
that's
had
a
a
little bit
physical
of
night also then? As a
yeah,
parent?
and we had 3 doctors. We had 100. They each saw 100 athletes. We did it over a 3-hour period. This year they actually want to double that. Out of 800, about approximately 800 total athletes, 300 is still a small percentage of what we really deal with. But we've had every time slot booked the 2 years that we've done it, so we're going to expand a few doctors. But that's on they're bringing in Express Ortho Care and to help them through that process.
Cool. All right. Very good. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Junior.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And my final item.
Oh, you have another?
Yes.
I know this almost feels like a principal. My final item is just to bring to your attention that we will be having a new polling arrival and dismissal procedure that will start on Monday, November 17th. This was a collaborative effort between the Indiana Department of Education's Transportation Department, which came out to review and reduce pedestrian activity. Bill Ledger's also been involved in this collaborative process, as well as Jerry Patrick, our SRO, and Christian Flores. So the Indiana Department of Education came down, they met, they watched, they walked away, they came back with some recommendations, and then Mr. Ledger went out there with Christian and Officer Patrick, and Bill can speak to this a little bit more to the details, but we are up and ready to go on Monday, November 27th.
Yeah, it is November 27th, and as Mr. Gandolfi said, we met with people from downstate, and then they did come back, and Mr. Flores and Officer Patrick and I met, and the biggest goal was to try to stop the commingling of parents and buses. And it's a very tight site, and so we all determined the best way to do that would be to kind of have a bus staging area, and we determined that would be basically on the west side of the gym. So over fall break, I had the paving stripers, site services stripe some bus spots there. We have 11 spots for buses. Mr. Flores has 14 buses there per day, plus a small special needs bus. So we can stage 11 at a time, and then they're gonna stay back on the frontage road facing north. When one leaves, the last 3 will just park there. And the parents will come down Coling Road basically and they'll double stack right in front of the building, in front of doors B, A, and C. And so we can get a lot more stacked there, and they're gonna be totally separate. We've had 3 meetings out there, and tomorrow morning at 7:15, Officer Patrick, myself, and Mr. Flores are meeting with Ms. Cruz to go over with some of her staff who are gonna be manning, directing traffic, and kind of go over those logistics with them. And Officer Patrick and myself told Ms. Cruz we would be there all next week to assist with her staff, and maybe if I could recruit maybe Mr. James or Mr. Gandolfi, they can also help out, but for sure myself and Officer Patrick will be there.
I think you gotta be like over 5'7" to travel. Probably out, but.
And I have also ordered her staff some high visible vests and some They've got 6 radios I'll be delivering tomorrow morning at our logistic meeting for her staff. They're just basically on-site radios to help with that traffic.
Good job. Any questions?
Has there been incidents, any accidents, any
Many near misses.
pretty close near misses type thing?
It's a lot of commingling. So
Yeah.
this will really keep the buses separate. And for those parents who have to go in to see the office, they can park the visitors parking and be totally eliminated from the bus traffic as well. So I think this is going to be a much safer setup.
Great.
Very similar,
Good.
Bibbage and Watson.
That's good.
That makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
to have the parents stay in vehicles.
Yeah.
And it's much safer, so.
And keep the bus separate.
Yeah, but thanks for being there to support them because, you know, it does get overwhelming and I think we've all received her newsletters about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did send out communication along with a map to parents, I believe, really last week.
Right, right. Well organized.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, and Director of Primary Ed.
I just have one item tonight, and that is to seek your approval of the professional leave requests that were in your regular board packet and the revised board packet.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Castaneda?
Yes, for my first item, I am seeking your approval for the professional leave request, the revised copy that you received this evening.
Move to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign, and motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. For my second item, I am seeking your approval for the field trip request as presented.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. And just informally, I'd like to mention, though I did send it by email today as well, that our high school had their advanced ed accreditation visit on November 7th through November 9th. It went very well. We will not get that final report back from them for about 30 days, so we're hoping that maybe in one of the January board meetings, we'll be able to bring the high school and the wonderful school improvement team back to share those findings with the board.
All right, thank you. And high school staff, we appreciate all your hard work on that, and please share that with your staff members. We know it's very tedious, but a lot of wonderful progress. Or process, the cycle of continuous improvement, very important, so thank you. All right, Director of Special Education.
My first item tonight is to request your approval for the professional leave request in your packet.
Move to approve?
Second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, and motion carries. Thank you.
And my next item was just to update the board on some changes being made to the certificate of completion. This is the exit document that our students with more significant disabilities receive. So this is what students with significant cognitive disabilities who are being instructed on modified standards, when they leave high school, they receive a certificate of completion rather than a diploma. So what has happened within the state, and this was all included in your board packet, but I'll summarize briefly.
Did anybody else try to read that? It's like, oh my goodness.
See, and I thought this was one of the better documents for it.
Oh,
So
okay.
what has happened in the state is as they've increased the rigor and standards for our diploma, there has been an increase in students with disabilities who are unable to attain that and therefore receive this certificate of completion. And previously, the certificate of completion was really just kind of wide open. There was no set criteria for it. It was up to the student's case conference committee to say, yes, they're done, or no, they need to stay with us longer. So in response to a lot of different movements within education, and part of that is the desire and need to hold high expectations for all of our students, even our students with disabilities. We have the state pulled together representatives from a lot of different groups to look at the certificate of completion and how it could be better defined. So what they've done is they've created a plan for us that really mirrors the requirements for a regular general diploma. And so students pursuing the certificate of completion will earn either credits if they are able to be successful in credit-bearing classes, or what they'll call applied units. And those applied units will be awarded for special education coursework they may take that is based on our new modified standards, which are called content connectors. So we are feeling really good about it here at Lake Central High School because we're already holding our students to high expectations. We already have classes with academic focuses. This is just giving us, more set criteria for our students. So they've given us right now some basic guidelines, a sample 4-year plan for students or a 6-year plan. That 6-year plan would be more for our students who go to our TAP program and who are spending those additional years with us. The few things we have to tweak now is for those students on the 4-year plan that are going to just finish after their 4 years here, we have to look more. There are some employability and vocational experiences that they need to have. So we need to sort of look at our life skills classes and how we're structuring those. The kids do a lot of job type activities, but we just need to spell those out a little bit better in the actual courses that they're taking. So Mrs. Reeby's here tonight. She's working with Mr. Begley and Mrs. Reddig as far as defining these things better for our high school staff and creating the courses. So we'll have, like an Algebra 1 class and an Applied Algebra 1 class, and that'll be the modified class. So we have to work on some course titles and some things like that, but it's not a scary change for us because we're already doing great things for the kids here. So we just have to tweak how we're documenting it a little bit.
Interesting. And if you're feeling good about it, then I think we all feel good about it too, because you're the professionals.
We were initially very nervous about it, but when we saw the documentation, we said, oh, this is what we're already doing. So we feel like we're in a good spot.
And I know that you do have a lot of students that go out and work in community businesses, because we see them all the time.
Yep.
So, perfect. Does this talk about this S alignment also?
Yes, so this is more, ESSA requires that all students be exposed and taught grade level standards. So ESSA is sort of what prompted Indiana to move into developing the content connectors, which are those modified grade level standards. So they've taken, a typical Algebra 1 standard and looked at how can that be modified to where it's meaningful. And I think there were some examples in there of what those look like. So this is driven partially by ESSA. But they did a good job in developing it, and that they had representatives from parents groups or administrators, teachers, the ARC, and agencies that employ students after they leave us. So it's pretty well defined, and they put a lot of thought into it.
So do you know who chaired that committee at the state level?
I do not. It's been, the communications we've gotten a lot has been from Nancy Zamitis and Kristen Sievers-Coffer, who are in the Department of Special Education.
Okay. Very good. So it sounds like we're in good shape, and so no major programming changes or just more detail?
I believe Debbie's back and she was here.
Was she part of the committee?
Okay. All right. Well, I know there's a lot of talk throughout the state, and I think a lot of misunderstandings about what this meant.
Mm-hmm.
So this is good to hear it, and knowing that you're already doing it anyway, and that's kind of why everybody wants. Well, that's not true. It's a big reason why a lot of people want to come to Lake Central is the wonderful programs we have for them, not just in this area, but in other areas. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing and enlightening us, because it was out there on the horizon. We're hearing about it, so. All right, and moving on. Mr. Ledger.
Thank you. I have 3 items tonight. The first item I'll be seeking approval on, which is to award and execute change order number 3 to Automated Logic for the Kaler Control Project. Unfortunately, since our last meeting, we lost the hot water control panel at Kaler. It's an antiquated panel, and working with Automated Logic and Arctic, the best solution, the most financially sound solution as well as the expediting solution was to try to tie it into the new control project we're doing. So they're adjusting their graphics, doing some engineering, and we can get some control points on the thing, and we can tie it into our new system. So it's gonna be good for the right now and also a long-range future as well. So I seek your approval on that. I'm sorry, it's for $8,400.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, are there any questions? All right, and so this ties into what you have been telling us about in the
The
past.
project we've been doing
Yes.
since the summer is due, we should be done around December 1st.
Okay.
Yes.
So do they have hot water now?
Yeah, we've been doing it manually, oh yes,
Okay.
oh yes, we've been
Okay.
able to operate it manually,
All
yes.
right, very good. Okay, call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, and motion carries.
My second item is just a brief update on the Indiana Finance Authority water sampling program. They have been out, they've completed phase 2 with our project this weekend, was basically the last sample test here at the high school. It was some, we had to work out some logistics with the high school because it's so large and the fact that they're always open for business. So we had to kind of work out some details for that. So that's been concluded this weekend, and we should be receiving all the results from all of our buildings in the next couple weeks. And I will bring you those results at our December board meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
My last item is I'm excited to announce that we have received the EPA Energy Star Award for Protzman. The last couple of years we've had the Energy Star Award for the high school, and Schmidt Associates, Precision Controls, Arctic. We've been working hard at Protzman to try to get us up there to receive this Energy Star, and we did make it for 2017. So that's really a big coup, and we're pretty excited about that.
Very good. Congratulations on that.
Congrats.
Any questions from Mr. Ledger?
Bill, that's our second EPA award, right? Didn't we get them?
We've received 2 for the high school.
2 for the high school?
Yes, we've, in 2016 and 2017, and this is the first one we received for Protzman.
Protzman, okay. Thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you. And moving
Thank
on,
you.
Mr. James.
Thank you. My first item is to seek your approval for a professional leave request for myself to attend the IASBO School Finance Seminar on December 12th in Indianapolis.
Move to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Are there any questions from Mr. James? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. My second item is to seek your approval on our resolution authorizing us to do 2018 tax anticipation warrants. This is a resolution we do each November or December, and in essence, because we do not get our tax revenue until June and December each year, some of our funds, in essence, run in the red, and so instead, to combat that, we seek your approval to borrow through what's called the Hammond Bond Bank. You may have heard of the Indiana Bond Bank. It's a similar program. And so I seek your approval to borrow monies for the 4 funds noted in the resolution. The amount this year is about half the amount that we've done in the past, just for cash flow purposes. So,
Great.
Okay, any questions for Mr. James? And do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Let's call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
And my last item is to seek your approval on a few donations recently received. Bibbage received a donation of $400 from their PTO for their Challenger Fund. The Kaler Science Olympiad received an anonymous $10 donation. And the Kaler dance team also received a variety of donations totaling $2,630. I will have those detailed for you in the board packet. The Clark PTO would like to donate $1,795 to the school to be used for the purchase of what's called Brain Pop computer software in the classrooms. And the Clark dance team received a $1,000 donation from Smoothie King. So I seek your approval on those donations received.
Move to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. And Mr. Marino, I am so sorry, I skipped you on the agenda. Do you have anything to report? Well, no, I heard that, and I heard this from.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, how do we talk? No, I was visiting another district and they were talking about the stress test, the ISTEP stress test.
Yeah.
And how did we do?
Just fine.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we've done fine with all that. And actually before that, for the past few weeks, we've been working on just testing everything, and any little complaint about any wireless problems, we've investigated. We've had Cisco on the phone just to make sure it's not a big problem. And so far, everything's been running very smoothly. So.
Good, that's great news. The stress test, I thought, okay, they're gonna do a test on the teachers, see how stressed they are the students. Yeah, it's on the technology to make sure that they can handle it throughout the state, so. All right, and moving on, public comments. And we have Mrs. DeVries.
No, Mr.
John DeVries. John, I'm sorry, I couldn't read. I thought it said Joanne, I'm sorry. Mr. DeVries, Dr. DeVries, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Would you like to go to the podium so we can put you on camera?
Oh, all right, I thought. My first attendance in this beautiful room.
I know.
I just wanted to say a couple words concerning the Veterans Day program. I had the privilege of attending at the high school. And what I witnessed was exactly what the school board years ago wanted to see done at our school. We wanted to see an age-appropriate educational program at each of the schools to educate the students just what Veterans Day was all about. And what I witnessed at the high school was exactly that program. I had the privilege of bringing 2 veterans to that program, and they were very touched by it. One of the gentlemen that came was a Korean War veteran, was a medic in the Korean War, and saw a lot of things that he didn't want to discuss. But the other one was a Vietnam veteran, and what he experienced coming home from the war was something he really didn't want to talk about. So he felt as though the program finally was giving those veterans their due. His wife expressed the comments to me at a basketball game Saturday that that's all he could talk about for the next 2 days, was that program. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to congratulate and thank the people responsible for that program, and also a comment regarding the student body. I've never seen so much respect given by a student body in my life. You could have heard a pin drop the whole program. And when these veterans entered the gymnasium, they had a standing ovation, which I think brought a tear to more than one eye. So I just wanted the board to know how much that was appreciated by at least 2 of those veterans that were there. I understand we had somewhere in 175, is that right?
We fed 400, so, and they brought some family members, so I think about 175. That's what we had signed up. I knew some more came in, that day.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of food for them.
Only possible comment, improvement I could make, suggestion for an improvement. I'd like to see perhaps these young gentlemen filming that and putting it on YouTube at the time of the presentation to maybe make the public aware of what's going on at this great school. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Jeff.
Dr. DeVries, if you hadn't have insisted and pushed for that, maybe it wouldn't have happened. So thank you for your tenacity, and you too, Mr. Marshall. Appreciate that. So appreciate the leadership. And thank you for sharing. And board comments in consideration of future agenda items. And do you have anything, Mrs. Seuss?
I do not.
You do not. And Mr. Baxa, do you?
I do not.
You do not. And Mrs. Lesentine?
Not at this time.
Mr. Marshall?
I'll join the,
Well, you know what, I'm gonna really surprise you tonight, because I'm gonna join you, so. Yeah. But I did like the Veterans Day also, so.
Yes, definitely make that comment. That was a great
Absolutely.
program.
So, Dr. Bracco, board calendar, if you
So we only have one meeting in December, and that is on the 11th. The 11th of December, that's our board meeting for December. And on December the 13th, we are going to have another opportunity for the community to provide input regarding a possible Lake Central School Corporation referendum. That's December 13th. We'll meet in the town square area, 6 p.m. There'll be more information coming out on that.
All right. Anything else we need to know about? No? All right, have a good Thanksgiving, everyone.
move for adjournment?
Second.
And we have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.